Lorenzo stared at the carefully laid table. The soft light of the candles made the silver plates and cutlery shine, but his heart was beating fast. He knew that dinner would change his life and that of his family forever. The words he was about to say had been weighing on his shoulders for years, but he knew he could no longer put them off. Before continuing, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell. Lorenzo had always been the model son, the boy every parent would have wanted. Born and raised in a city steeped in art and culture, he was the youngest of three brothers. His parents, Eduardo and Julia, were both successful lawyers, highly respected in the community. Since childhood, Lorenzo had shown a brilliant intelligence and an insatiable curiosity, which distinguished him from other children. Edward, known for his rigor and dedication, was the epitome of success. His legal career had brought him numerous awards, and he secretly hoped that at least one of his children would follow in his footsteps. Julia, equally ambitious, had always been proud of her career and never hid her desire to see her children achieve great things. Lorenzo, with his calm character and attentive gaze, seemed to perfectly embody those expectations. As a child, Lorenzo did not play with building blocks or toy soldiers like his peers. He preferred to immerse himself in history and science books, fascinated by the mysteries of the world. At school, he excelled in all subjects, always earning the admiration of teachers and classmates. He was brilliant, diligent, the perfect son, the one you could always be proud of. Eduardo always spoke proudly of Lorenzo's achievements, seeing in him the reflection of his own dreams and ambitions. But behind that ever-present smile, Lorenzo hid a growing restlessness. While his older brothers, Ricardo, Alessio, and Matteo, had accepted without too many questions the fate of following the legal path traced by their parents, Lorenzo began to feel more and more suffocated by that life that did not feel his. Every step he took towards a career as a lawyer seemed to him a step towards a gilded prison. Despite his excellent academic performance, Lorenzo no longer felt the joy he once associated with academic success. Behind every praise, every recognition, he felt a growing emptiness, a sense of loss that no high grade or compliment could fill. The idea of spending the rest of his life in a courtroom, following cases like his parents', caused him increasing anxiety. The years passed, and under the constant encouragement of his parents, Lorenzo continued to study law. He graduated with honors, as expected, a day eagerly awaited by the entire family. During the ceremony, Eduardo and Julia could not contain their pride. But Lorenzo, despite his elegant suit and his smile, felt a deep sense of dissatisfaction inside himself. This restlessness began to manifest itself physically too. Lorenzo began to suffer from insomnia, frequent headaches, and a constant tension in his stomach. He looked to his brothers for comfort, but the answers were always the same, superficial. "It's just stress," Ricardo told him one evening. "It happens to everyone. You just have to hold on. Life is like that." Those words, instead of consoling him, hurt him even more. He felt alone, trapped in a role he didn't want, in a life he didn't feel was his. Time passed, and the weight of expectations became unbearable. Lorenzo tried to repress his discomfort, but with each passing day he felt a stronger desire to escape from the life that had been imposed on him. One day, after a particularly hard sleepless night, he decided to go to the hospital. The pains in his stomach had become unbearable. Sitting in the waiting room, he felt vulnerable and scared. When he finally got to see her, the doctor's verdict was like a blow to the heart. "You're developing a stomach ulcer, Lorenzo. It's stress. You have to do something to reduce the pressure you're under, or things will get worse." Those words were a wake-up call. Lorenzo understood that he could not continue on that path. He had to make a choice, and he had to make it now. He could not allow the weight of other people's expectations to continue to destroy him, physically and mentally. She knew that talking to her parents would be a challenge, but she had no choice. If she wanted to be happy, she had to pursue her dream, no matter what the cost. The decision came during a family dinner. That evening, the atmosphere was formal and cordial as usual, but Lorenzo couldn't stop thinking about what he should say. His parents were talking about their usual things: clients, cases, future expectations for their children. Lorenzo, who usually participated in the conversations with enthusiasm, was strangely silent. Eduardo and Julia noticed the change, but they couldn't imagine what was about to happen. With his heart in his throat and his hands shaking slightly, Lorenzo finally found the courage to speak. "Mom, Dad, I have to tell you something," he began with a trembling voice. "I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. I can't go on like this. I've decided to follow my true passion. I want to become a writer." Silence fell over the room like a heavy blanket. Eduardo and Julia looked at each other shocked, unable to formulate an answer. "You want to become a writer? After all these years of study and sacrifice?" Julia asked, incredulous. Eduardo, usually so composed, reacted angrily. "A writer? You can't base your career on 2 books of fairy tales. What are you thinking?" Lorenzo felt his blood run cold. He had expected the conversation to be difficult, but he hadn't imagined the harshness of his father's words. "Dad, it's not just a hobby. Writing is what I truly love. It makes me happy. The law, on the other hand, is destroying me. I can't continue on this path." Eduardo, visibly upset, snorted. "Lorenzo, you can't throw everything away. We've invested so much in your education. What do you think you'll get out of writing? Do you really want to give up a secure career to chase a childhood dream?" His father's words hurt him deeply, but Lorenzo was not willing to give in. He rose from the table, his hands shaking, and with a firm voice replied, "I would rather pursue that childhood dream than spend the rest of my life unhappy in a profession I don't love." His words, full of desperation, caused a heavy silence to fall in the room. Everyone remained still, unable to speak. Eduardo lowered his gaze while Julia tried to hide her tears. Lorenzo rose from the table and left the room, leaving behind him a shocked family. That night, Lorenzo's family had to deal with a reality they had ignored for too long. Eduardo and Julia, who had always believed that professional success was the key to happiness, found themselves forced to reconsider everything. They realized that their son's happiness was more important than any social prestige or professional recognition. Over time, they began to change. Eduardo learned to put aside his expectations and support Lorenzo in his dream of becoming a writer. Julia, initially skeptical, began to see the passion in her son's eyes and to understand that perhaps success is not always defined by a traditional career. She began to read her son's stories, discovering in them a talent that she had never wanted to see. Lorenzo finally found the courage to follow his dream. He signed up for a creative writing course and began to devote himself full-time to his passion. It wasn't an easy journey, but for the first time in his life, he felt free and happy. His family, united by love and understanding, found a new balance, based no longer on expectations, but on respect for everyone's dreams. Lorenzo, with his pen, not only found his way, but managed to make everyone understand how important it is to follow your heart. Did you like this story? Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching the video till the end, and see you next story.